reflect that we are meeting remotely because of the ongoing continuing pandemic, which we pray will be over one of these days. And we're meeting remotely in conformance to the requirements of the governor, as well as St. Louis County Executive, for the general health welfare of ourselves and the general public as well. And under the Sunshine Law, Section 610.015, it provides that the members of the City Council who are not physically present in the council chambers can participate and vote on all matters when there is an emergency, and the nature of the emergency is stated in the minutes. So let the minutes reflect that the emergency continues to exist.
Thank you, John. So we have a motion and a second on the floor for approval of minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion passes. Our only order of business for this work session is the discussion about South Geyer Railroad improvements. And since Wallace asked for this to be on for discussion, and I know he's talked to Bill and Russ and Chris about this. Wallace, why don't you frame it, and then we'll get on to anything that Bill or Chris or Russ has on it.
Okay, some years ago, the railroad came to approach City of Kirkwood. We had a no harm zone that had been approved by the railroad, but they were looking, throughout their network to reduce the number of auto train collisions. So they were looking to enhance the safety of their crossings. All of our crossings, except for Kirkwood Road, had staggered crossing gates, so that if you were on one side going one direction, there was a gate on your side, but the other side was open. You had to be on the opposite side of the tracks to have a gate, which meant that it was easy for you to circumvent the gates and go around, and then, of course, maybe kill yourself. So what the railroad approached the city and said, you've got these options. Either let us blow the horns and you can leave your gates as they are, or increase the number of gates by 2 so that every lane would have a crossing gate, which would inhibit you from crossing illegally, or put up median barriers, which would prevent you, for a certain distance at least, prevent you from getting around the crossing gate. And the total cost of that, I think the number I recall was somewhere in the neighborhood of $800,000 to do all of those. But I'd have to double check. My memory's not that great. So what the city did was say, well, okay, we'll just put the median barriers in place and we won't do anything with the crossing gates. For most of the intersections, all but one actually, that really didn't materially change things for anyone. You just couldn't go around the train. The intersection that I'm concerned with is Monroe Place and Geyer Road, because that one is different in that there is a east-west street intersecting a north-south street right at that crossing. And the median barrier prohibited universal travel north and south from Monroe, and also from east and west off, or at least eastbound off of Geyer if you were southbound. I'm sorry, I had intended to send you some maps so that for those of you who aren't familiar with the area. So what I'm asking is that we should, because think of this, most of the folks who are west of Geyer Road, who live south of Woodbine and or north of Woodbine and south of either Monroe itself or Adams, have to go all the way around. They can't take that cut through to get through to downtown Kirkwood, which we had been doing for 150 plus years. So all I'm asking is that we ask that the city take a look at and provide us a report with what it would cost to add one crossing gate to that intersection, so that we could, and then that would meet the safety requirements of the railroad, and we could get rid of that barrier that's in the road there. One of the problems that we were going to have with crossing gates on the northbound side of that intersection was that there are power lines overhead. But they make, I did some research on it. So they make an articulated crossing arm, one which folds, but extends out to even 40 feet, which I'm not sure how much we need. I don't know, the 40 feet would probably get it, but you can get them longer than that. And so that would allow you to clear the overhead power lines and provide the safety restrictions that the railroad is interested in. So the equipment is not terribly expensive because in this particular case, you could just simply retrofit the existing arm. So you wouldn't require a complete mechanical change of the equipment that's there. You just add a different arm to it. So it's not you're not burying new lines and going to the railroad switching terminals and all of those things. So, but I think that because of the inconvenience, and there's also a safety factor in there too. The fire department is restricted by that intersection, just like everyday traffic is too, fire and police. So that's a consideration, maybe not the major one, but an important one, because they have to also make the longer route to get to wherever they're going in that immediate area. So that's what I'm asking you to do tonight. Ask the administration to take a look at that, get back to us, let us know what that cost is. I think there's also the potential for an offset of what we already have out there. There is a proposed new signalization at Geyer and Argonne. I've always thought that, well, I shouldn't say always. Let me give you a history of that light. That light was originally placed there because the ice rink used to be an outdoor rink, and a lot of folks, adults and kids, walked to the rink there, and that's how they entered. Well, that rink no longer exists, so it's indoors. Very few people, kids included, walk to the park to skate in that rink. And if they do, we've never provided them with a sidewalk. They walk in down the road if they do come that way. So for the occasional pedestrian traffic that we might have there, I would think that a flashing beacon would suffice and would come in at a much reduced cost although I know we've applied for matching grants. Is that right, Bill, for that signal that's there?
We have matching grants already, yes.
Yeah. So, if money becomes the issue, we could recover some money there, because I'm not sure that we can justify the expense of putting that light there. We didn't do a traffic study there, did we, Bill?
Well, it has been justified and it's been approved as a reimbursable through East West Gateway already. So, and we just had our traffic engineers, they are recommending a full signalization there and a raised intersection also for pedestrian.
What's that? Do you have traffic information for us on that, Bill?
Not in front of me, no. But we have a report here from T Square we can pass on.
Yeah, I'd like to see the frequency that we have traffic there, at least pedestrian traffic at that intersection, because the automobile traffic is not really impaired one way or the other, affected by that intersection much. We've reduced also the automobile traffic in there simply because of the Stages Theater now is leaving. So that brought a lot of automobile traffic there, and that's going away. So those are things to consider. So that's what I'm asking for us to do, at least have them get back to us, give us a report on what that might cost and look like to make those changes. I think it's important for the community over the long haul.
Thanks, Wallace. And the reason we're talking about it is that Russ wanted to make sure before that they had the majority of the council, okay with spending some time, resources looking at this option. So that's why we're talking about it here. Russ, Bill, Chris, before we move on to any council questions, comments on this, would you like to state anything?
Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, all right. We have looked at this just briefly. Wallace is correct that what is called a quiet zone that the city has, and to keep our quiet zone, we'll have to do something at that intersection like it is. Most cities selected the barrier systems throughout the most because of the costs involved. It's been in place since 2005, I think, is when it went into place, the quiet zone in that area. So it's been in place for about 15 years now. There are a couple things we'd have to do. We first have to get with the Federal Railroad Association, and we do have contact with them. For cost estimating, we did reach out to Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley, who's designing the Geyer Road right now for us under our STP agreement, and they do have some conflicts with what Wallace was saying, but they feel that that's called a 4-quadrant gate. Okay, that's what we're looking at, is they have a 4-quadrant gate there, and they estimate that in that location with administrative fees, permit fees, design, review, and construction, that you're probably looking at close to $500,000 for that gate there. They feel that the gate would not be able to be modified. It would have to be all new 4-quadrant gates at that location at this time. But that was just at talking to them before we went any further, because we'll have to do our research with the Federal Railroad Association administration. We can't take for granted that this will be covered through our existing STP grant, because it was not part of the grant, where the signal at Argonne was part of the grant and was reimbursable. So we'd have to talk to East West Gateway about that to make sure that we can transfer funds if we decide to make that decision. Okay. If the city council wants us to move forward, there will be some cost we would most likely do an amendment agreement with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley to do the research and to come up with that cost estimate and the feasibility for us. There's probably some cost there. It's probably under $10,000 for sure, but that's where we would probably go to them for their expertise, because they have a department that deals strictly with the railroads. So that's how we would move forward at this time.
Could I suggest a more cost-saving effort? Why wouldn't we go to crossing gate suppliers and have them, at no cost to us, give recommendations, which they know, because that's what they're in the business of supplying that equipment. You know, the engineering, I understand that, but I'm curious that they would only propose to you a quad change, which is to put 4 gates up, which gets us back to where we were 15 years ago, when the simple articulated arm on one side would take care of that need. So I'm looking at saving your time and saving you some money. Get the suppliers in the game and get that load off your back.
Well, I want to make sure it's feasible. I want to talk to the Federal Railroad Administration to make sure if it's acceptable to them. Okay, if it's not acceptable, I'm not going to move forward. Okay, right. And I think it's always best to talk to our professional engineers opposed to suppliers in these type of situations, because we're still going to have to engage an engineering company to come up with the design and the final installation if it's approved. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking at this preliminary stage, let's go mean and lean. Get the suppliers, get in the game, and you can also get. Certainly, you want to reach out to the Railroad Association and see where they are. But that seems to be more prudent than dropping a large amount of money on an engineering firm right off the bat.
I'll leave that up to. I'll talk to Russ about it. But we're short-staffed, and we are in the middle of the design of that project. So we are on a time schedule to get the Geyer Road project under wraps. And to right away in the spring and things. We'll definitely talk to Russ about it and see how he wants me to proceed, because there is some cost and there is some expertise in there, and we will have to get the Federal Railroad Administration's approval no matter what we do. We have to get their approval.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So my question is, in any project that we look at, what is the public benefit versus the public cost? And I haven't received a single concern about this intersection until Wallace came with this. Is there a high demand for a left turn coming across Geyer to go up? I don't know, and maybe that's what Wallace is looking for out of this, out of a transportation study. Although that study, I don't think, covered this intersection, did it, Bill?
No, it did not project movements, because we left it in the as-is condition.
I'd be more comfortable with some sort of empirical analysis of whether it's worth our time to even go down this road. Because is there a demand for that left turn, or is there a demand coming from Monroe to make a left turn? I don't know. It's been 15 years that it's been the way
my
it is.
argument would be that for 150 years there was demand for it. We cut it off, and we didn't ask the community at the time. We just did it. So it's kind of curious to come back now and say, I'm not sure people care about it.
I'm not, and I'm certainly not saying that. I think it's just beneficial to determine, is it worth putting $200,000 worth of city money into freeing up a left turn that there isn't a whole lot of demand for, that we have any knowledge of?
Well, I understand that, Russ, but my concern is here. We're throwing dollar amounts around that we haven't done any history on that yet. So what it's going to cost us, we really don't know. So is it important? I mean, common sense will tell you that a lot of folks want to travel east and west and go north and south. And when they get to that intersection, they can no longer do that. And it gets increased when you have mile-long coal trains, which are backing up traffic all the way across town.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. No, I understand that.
So
again, I just have to look from an administration.
Yeah, is it a dire issue for the community? No, but since we're looking at doing some things on Guyer Road now, I just thought it made sense to get that into the loop. And now maybe it's something that you can apply for a grant in the following year, but now seems to be the time to take a look at it. And if it doesn't work financially this year after we've done the homework, that's good. We can look at it for the following fiscal.
Yeah, and as the mayor said, we as staff can certainly look into it on a cursory basis. In other words, to identify if the Federal Railroad Administration will even support that approach and keep our quiet zone. I think that's a reasonable start. But beyond that, I would want more information as to what the demand is, just as an administrator over these projects.
Is that something our engineer would have to do, or is that something staff would do, consult with the railroad?
Bill, can you answer that?
Yeah, we would reach out to the Federal Railroad. We just had our inspection of our quiet zone this past spring, and we would reach out to that contact and discuss some issues with them. We would then invite them out and take a look at it and discuss the options that we would have to be available to us to maintain our quiet zone, if that's what the city wants to maintain, and allow the access that Wallace is talking about. We can definitely talk to them about that.
I mean, I think that that's probably not to put more stuff on you. That's probably a good, just a good thing to find out, because if they say no, then we're done. And so, all right, let's go to some council questions on it. Carrie, you have anything on this?
Not really, no.
Liz, anything?
Well, when Wallace brought it up, I said how it drives me crazy, because I'll forget that I can't turn south onto Guyer from Monroe, and so I support looking into it.
Maggie.
I can't say that I have any personal. I just know you can't turn left there, and so I go somewhere else. So it's, I can't say any more than that.
Yeah. Bob.
I think certainly when they were installed, there were a lot of people who did not like them, both for their aesthetics and for the change in the traffic pattern. And people weren't used to it. I don't see a lot of issue there as far as the inability to turn. It is, at the beginning, it was kind of frustrating till I learned to do something different, because I mean, if you can picture it, I think my house is almost directly west of City Hall on the same level. So an east to west line is the way I drove home. So I'd go Monroe over to Nurk and then straight through, meaning I had to make a left turn on South Geyer. And now I go to Woodbine, which is considerably distant. But if I remember, it's not that big a deal. So I think that's how most people are handling it. They still probably think they're very ugly. I do. I think that I'd like to have the different, if we could solve it with the double gates or however we are going to express that, that's fine. But if we knew that they're around, what'd you say, $500,000, something like that? If we knew I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Bill. Yeah.
That's what CMT just gave us a ballpark estimate to do from start to finish of the project.
I would say if we knew that was going to be the price, then don't spend another dime. But I'm with Wallace. I kind of wonder if they're focused on one solution when there could be other solutions out there that aren't nearly as expensive, but engineers might be thinking of it differently than somebody else who's also in the industry. I don't know how to get there, maybe through contacting suppliers, but at the very outset, we need to know whether a different solution would satisfy the railroads.
All right, Mark?
Yeah, I think it's certainly inconvenient to have that there. But if I think, as Councilmember Sears said, it's really going to cost that much money. We've got other pressing financial issues. We're still dealing with limited revenues coming in. But I think if it's financially feasible to do, I'd do it sooner than later. But if we have to wait a bit, there are other pressing priorities for the city. But I don't think anybody really liked it when they put it in to begin with. So it would be nice to see what the options are.
So what I hear from everyone is that, there's no real objection to making some, cursory or whatever term you want to call it with, who is it, the Railroad Administration, or who is it? What's
Federal Railroad Administration.
Is that who it is? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just to get their thoughts on, is it even possible to do something different there and still keep our quiet zone, and just, let us know, and then what that answer is. And then at that point, council can decide if we want to move forward with any more steps. Does that sound reasonable, Russ?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Wallace, is that?
Oh yeah, I don't think anybody with a conscience wants to spend $500,000 on that intersection. But
nope. It's a lot of streets.
Yeah, if we can find something less expensive and apply some grant to whatever that least expensive option is, then I'm good to go there.
All right. Well, then we'll have Russ, have staff just make that initial inquiry, and then report back, and we'll see where we go from there.
All right.
Very good. That is all we have for this work session. We obviously have to, it sounds terrible. We come back at 6 o'clock for the 2 public hearings. So I ask everyone to log on or whatever we do to get on these by about 5:55, so we can start right at 6. So,
Mayor, do we need to? October 8th?
Thought we did.
We already did that.
I think we did.
Oh, we
Oh,
voted
sorry.
on the minutes.
Yeah,
we
October
voted-
15th.
You said October 8th. We voted on the minutes we had here for the 15th. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
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 All right. Very good. We'll see everybody in a little while. public hearing, I am going to recuse myself. I have a business relationship with the current property owner at 132 West Monroe Avenue. So I'm going to step away and let Deputy Mayor Dewey preside over the first public hearing.
At this time, the council will recess to conduct a public hearing regarding a request for a special use permit for a restaurant with outdoor seating and a site plan for a coffee shop at 132 West Monroe Avenue. Mr. Hessel, do you wish to enter any exhibits into the record?
I would, Deputy Mayor. Exhibit 1 is an affidavit of publication verifying notice public hearing appeared in the St. Louis County. Exhibit 2 is the affidavit of publication verifying notice public hearing appeared in the Webster Kirkwood Times. Exhibit 3 is the viewer map showing the property that is the subject of the public hearing as well as the surrounding properties. Exhibit 4 is a list of property owners to whom notice of this hearing has been sent. Exhibit 5 is the report of the Planning and Zoning Commission dated October 8, 2020, which the commission recommended approval of the request for a special use permit for a restaurant with outdoor seating and a site plan for a coffee shop at 132 West Monroe Avenue. Exhibit 6 is the subcommittee report of the Planning and Zoning Commission dated October 7, 2020. And Exhibit 7 is the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kirkwood.
Thank you, Mr. Hessel. Mr. Hawes, will you present this issue to the City Council?
That will be City Planner 2, Amy Lowry.
Good evening. I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint, so let me do that. Again, this is a public hearing for a special use permit 132 West Monroe for a restaurant with outdoor seating and outdoor speakers. The subject property is located on West Monroe and almost at the corner with South Clay. It is a almost a 9,500 square foot lot. Currently, there is a converted home that dates to the 1920s. It was used for a long time as Dr. Lang's optometrist, if you old timers might remember that. But recent use has been office. This is the front and west side of the lot. And this is the exterior stair on the back of the house that leads up to the second floor. And then this is a view of the rear porch with the ADA access and the lot in the back. This is an exhibit from the applicant that gives a good detail of what is proposed at this site, including a new deck in the front, a walk-up window on the side for ordering and pickup, a new trash enclosure on the rear, refacing of this current sign, and a landscaping strip in front of the new deck on the front. In the site plan here, you can see on the left-hand side, which is the larger view of it, which shows the 11 existing parking spaces. And then on the right is a closer view of the building with the new deck out front, and it will wrap around to the back. Nice. These are just some site plan details of the new trash enclosure. The applicant did indicate at the planning and zoning meeting that this trash enclosure actually might be situated elsewhere on the site, or it might be shared with the American Legion site. So staff would review and where the placement of it and also ensure compliance with landscaping regulations. These are floor plans. As we've already said, they're proposing a new front deck that wraps around to the east and a walk-up window on this side. And since the ADA ramp is in the back, that would allow access to the entire site as far as accessibility. These are proposed building elevations. The building is actually 1,050 square feet on the first floor and 778 square feet on the second floor. The proposed deck is 580 square feet. And for every additional parking space, 100 square feet of deck may be used for seating. The ABA would review, ARB, I'm sorry, would review and approve all of these elevations. Recommended conditions of note from planning and zoning is, as I touched on, the building addition for a deck for outdoor seating generates the need for additional parking on the site. And the applicant's going to try to pursue a shared parking agreement with some of the neighboring properties once the new owner closes on the property. So right now they're asking for approval of 12 outdoor seats, and that's allowed as an accessory restaurant use under our current code. And they want a contingency that additional seats may be approved by staff if a parking agreement is workable and approved by the city attorney. The other condition of note is the Planning and Zoning Commission decided to allow the outdoor use, restricting it from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then the outdoor speakers for music would be restricted further from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Tonight, we're looking at the public hearing and then the first and second readings on the ordinance. The applicant and representatives are here to answer any of your questions. And I will just say up front, because this may come up as a question, the special use permit for a restaurant at 142 West Monroe that this applicant had applied for previously is still in place and remains in place until March 2021. Do you have any other questions?
Thank you, Amy. Does anybody have any other questions? Any questions for Amy? Councilmember Ward.
Yeah, I think I'd like to hear from the applicant and then ask some questions, if possible.
There we go. Hi, how are you all doing? Thanks for having us tonight. As Amy's, I guess Amy pretty extensively went over our project. I don't know what else I can add to it. It's like she said, it's a coffee shop. We have some outdoor seating and proposed deck. We do have the SUP in place that I think it prohibits us from counting some of the parking that we were relying on for that. So we would ask for that SUP, for our SUP to basically be allowed to start once that previous one that we had applied for at 142, once that has expired, which should actually coincide with some spring outdoor seating areas, and any deficiencies that we might have. We also ask that we be allowed to work out any other shared parking agreements with adjacent properties with the staff and the city attorney, as Amy had suggested. I think those were kind of the biggest points that we wanted to, I guess, bring to your attention and address. Is there any other questions that anyone has, or anything that I might be able to fill in any holes?
Councilmember Ward.
And not for the applicant, but I'd like to go to Amy if I could. Amy, do we have any idea what the theoretical maximum would be on decking if with additional off-street parking?
Well, it's if they go to the 580 square feet, the parking rate is 10 spaces per 1,000. So you're looking at, now you're asking me to do math on the fly.
Well, that's okay. That's all right.
So you get six. If you got about 6 additional parking spaces, you'd be able to use all 580 square feet.
Okay, so it looks like they're going to be dependent on, at least for now, dependent on agreements with adjacent or close by facilities for off-street parking. If for any reason they lose that agreement, where does the city stand? What do we do? Are we looking at demolition of the deck in order to come into compliance with what they have available, or just how would that work?
We would let them have the 12 seats that they're allowed under code already. So they could have those. We wouldn't make them demolish the deck. So I guess that if they build the deck, they get 12 seats. And then if they can come up with more parking, then they can add more seats to the deck.
Got it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Wertz?
Nothing.
Thank you. And Councilmember Gibbons, please.
A couple of things. First of all, the folks that are going to be running this had a booth down at the farmers market all summer and fall. And they were next to my children that had the biscuits and gravy business, and they're delightful people. They would be just a huge addition to be here permanently in Kirkwood, not just part-time at the market. I was wondering, is there going to be any food served at all?
Yeah, yes, there will be. Actually, I believe Olivia is she's the owner, and I believe she's on, and I'd actually defer to her explanation of the actual offerings and the procedures and stuff, and let you all hear directly from her.
Yes, I'm on here. So food-wise, it's going to be a smaller menu, especially to start. So we'll have like breakfast sandwiches. We're going to do different open-faced toasts and like overnight oats. And then we'll have lunch as well, which will be paninis and salad options. So that'll be to start. And then if we continue to grow, then it might become bigger.
Well, you just heard from Olivia, and I mean, she is just a wonderful person. It would be such an addition to Kirkwood, and having something like this that preserves one of our old houses, that's something that a lot of people are concerned about. And I think it's just a really delightful addition. One last question maybe for Amy is there any I can't remember, is there on-street parking right there, and can that count for them?
There is on-street parking in front of the building, but that does not count towards their parking.
It doesn't.
Parking.
Okay, I think that's a change, isn't it? Didn't it used to?
I'm not certain about that.
Those are all my questions.
Councilmember Sears?
So the way I understand it, we're not being asked to grant any kind of relief from a parking requirement. Is that right?
It's just a public hearing.
Well, I mean, I don't mean
No,
tonight. I mean in overall.
No.
And then would is the plan that if they add parking, then the additional tables are automatically added, or how does that work?
Yes, if they add parking, then we would figure out, how many tables that would be equal to, and let them add that.
That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Zimmer?
Yes, thank you both for the presentation on this. I like the fact that we are preserving an existing home downtown. I think it's a great way to reuse this building. It hasn't been a house for a long time, but it's a very sturdy structure. My question has to deal with the speakers that are outside. And this is just thinking of any neighbors that might hear them. Is this just ambient music, background music, kind of creating a mood, or is it going to be louder than that?
Maybe Olivia can answer that.
Yeah, Olivia just came off mute. I'll let her.
We talked about this actually in the planning and zoning meeting as well. It's definitely not going to be loud music. You're basically only going to be able to hear it if you are sitting, in the patio area. Very just low background kind of music, like you said.
Okay, great. All right, well, look forward to trying the coffee.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Could you, I didn't get it exactly. When will the music start? When will be this music start, the hours of the day?
The ordinance has from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., which was the recommendation of planning and zoning.
Okay. And what, it appears that there is somewhat of an upstairs. What will that be used for? Or am I misunderstanding the pictures?
No, there is an upstairs, and it'll just be some overflow seating.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Are there any comments or anyone from the public that wishes to speak or ask questions?
I'm not seeing any hands.
Okay, thank you, Freddie. It looks like we're good from there. Thank you, Amy. Hearing no further discussion, the council will take this matter under advisement and consider the hearing to be recessed. If I had a gavel, I'd do it.
Thank you.
Well done.
Oh, thank you.
Should we carry on without the mayor, or what do you think?
You want me to run down the
Do
street
that.
and see if I can get them?
Somebody run down the
We could do that.
Somebody call PJs.
Yeah, really. Tell PJ to tell him to get back over here.
That's right.
I've got to get myself back on, so I got to start my video here. There we go. Sorry you got me back.
Well, we only talked about you for a little bit.
Oh, that's all right. Very good. Okay. So that public, that item will be on the our new business agenda for next meeting. Is that correct, Laurie?
Correct. November 19th.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Dewey.
You're welcome.
All right. Now we have our second public hearing, which is a request for a special use permit for a motor vehicle accessory and related installation store at 538D Leffingwell Avenue. Mr. Hessel, do you wish to enter any exhibits into the record?
I would, Mayor. Exhibit 1 is an affidavit of publication verifying notice of public hearing appeared in the St. Louis County. Exhibit 2 is an affidavit of publication verifying notice of public hearing appeared in the Webster Kirkwood Times. Exhibit 3 is a viewer map showing the location of the property as well as the surrounding properties who received notice of this public hearing. Exhibit 4 is a list of property owners to whom notice of this hearing has been sent. Exhibit 5 is a report of the Planning and Zoning Commission dated October 8, 2020, which after a presentation for a request for a special use permit for a motor vehicle accessory store and related installation at 538D Leffingwell Avenue, the commission recommended approval subject to conditions contained in the October 7, 2020 memo from City Planner to Amy Lowry. Exhibit 6 is in fact that memo from Amy Lowry dated October 7, 2020. And Exhibit 7 is the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kirkwood.
Thank you, John. Mr. Hawes, who will present this to City Council?
City Planner 2, Amy Lowry.
Welcome, Amy, again.
Okay, let me pull up my screen again. Share that. As you said, this is 538 Leffingwell Avenue, Suite D, for a special use permit for a motor vehicle accessory store. This is an aerial view of the site. The building at 538 Leffingwell was built in 2016, and it has about 9,500 square feet. This tenant would be the 5th of 5 in the building. It's zoned light industrial, and most of the other uses here are warehouse office combinations. This is a front view of the building. In the lower right is Suite D. And this is a rear view of the building. Lower right is Suite D with the overhead door that they would be bringing cars in to do installation of window tinting. This is the overall site plan from 2015 that was approved by Planning and Zoning. There's 24 parking spaces, one of which is accessible. And the proposed use here is at Suite D is a motor vehicle accessory store and related installation, provided that such installation is limited only to materials sold on site. And that requires a special use permit in the light industrial district. The applicant's business is window film / vinyl application, and they propose the installation internal to the building. They also install window film on site at commercial and residential buildings. Just an interior view, the yellow highlighting is approximately where their installation area is going to be. Orange, they're going to have inventory, and pink will be for customer consultation. And they propose that the clients would schedule appointments and there'd be no overnight parking. And staff conducted an analysis of the parking at the whole site and concluded that it was adequate. Recommended conditions of note from planning and zoning. Based on the shared parking calculations for the entire site, this applicant could have a maximum of 3 customer vehicles parked on site during their operating hours, but there would be no outdoor storage of vehicles overnight. And as the parking calculations for this particular suite are based on the retail area of the suite, the applicant has to keep approximately 700 square feet of installation. So if they change that, then they might have to provide more parking spaces on site. One of the big sticking points for this site is that landscaping and shrubs that were required to be in the original approved landscape plan are now missing. And the city forester requested that they be in place or replaced before the issuance of an occupancy permit for the motor vehicle store. So that's a recommended condition from P&Z, and that's in the proposed ordinance. So tonight, again, this is the public hearing, and then we'll have first reading and the second reading on the ordinance. The hours of operation in the ordinance are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and Saturdays 9 to 1. This is a little bit more generous than what the applicant had requested, but those seem to be usual business hours, and we just wanted to make sure the applicant could change them if they wanted to. And the applicant's here to answer any questions that you may have, and I'm available for questions as well.
Thank you very much. Would the applicant like to say anything, or just wait for questions? Someone has just popped on.
Mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, would you like to say anything, or just wait for questions from the council if there are any?
I just want to, whatever questions I can answer, I'm here to help, whatever I need to do.
Great, very good. Thank you very much. I've got just one question. Maybe it's for John or Amy. This is not the building owner, if I'm correct. Is that correct? This operation would be a tenant in this building?
That's correct.
This has come up before, and I'm going to ask John. I don't know how, but I'm going to ask John. This is the tenant, not the building owner. And regarding the landscaping, that's the purview of the building owner. And I'm not sure we can necessarily make a tenant responsible for a building owner obligation. Can you address that, John?
No, I think you're exactly right, Mayor. We really cannot compel the tenant to do that. On the other hand, we have utilized this tactic, for lack of a better term, on other occasions, because obviously the landlord's going to want the tenant. And so it does try to convince the landlord to try to take some action. Now, I would recommend that you refrain from putting that condition on this application, but make it abundantly clear through other means that we certainly intend to compel the landlord to comply with the obligations as far as landscaping.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That was the only question I had. Councilmember Ward, do you have anything?
No, you asked the question that I had on my mind. Thank
okay. You. All right. Councilmember Ward, anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Councilmember Gibbons?
I just had a question about the hours of operation in light industrial. I've lived next door to some renovation or some home building that goes on from 7 in the morning till 7 at night. And I'm curious why that's allowed, but light industrial has to be from 9 to 6.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be from 9 to 6. Because it's a special use permit, we can have some control over the hours, and they actually were going to be open less hours than that. So we expanded it from what they had requested. I mean, you can certainly change it to, you know, from 9 to, or from 7 to 7 if you like in the ordinance.
I mean, I think it should be. If we're going to allow in a residential area to have 7 to 7, I don't understand. It makes sense to me that we would allow it in the light industrial.
Well, we would allow it, Councilmember Gibbons, but this is what the petitioner asked for. They probably, I mean, so that's how that came about, it sounds like. That was that's what they asked for. Is that correct? And I'll just call you Andrew. I won't try to pronounce your last name.
Yeah, we're as of right now, we're open from Tuesday through Friday, 9 to 4, and we just come in Saturday for people who can't get in during the week for a couple hours, 9 to 1. That's all we're asking for right now.
All right.
And if I can add, Mayor, I understand Councilmember Gibbons' point, but they are different. Obviously, residential construction is temporary. It's not going to go on forever. Fortunately, they complete the project and move on, where this operation ideally is going to go on for years and years, if not decades. So we are sort of comparing an apple to an orange. And we've had debates as to whether or not we should regulate more stiffly, or strictly, I should say, the hours for construction. There's this debate that goes on. Do you allow them to go from 7 and 7 to allow them to get in, finish the work and get out more quickly? Or do you regulate the hours, and rather than the home being constructed in 6 months, it takes 8 months? Again, my point is that it's just a different kind of analysis that you do on the hours.
Well, if the applicant's fine with it, I can live with it too. But if the applicant ever wants to change it, I guess he could come to the city and we could discuss it again. Is that correct, John?
Absolutely right, Liz.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Sears?
Two things. One, is there anything noxious or environmental about this application, or is it not? I mean, you know, is there some strong adhesive, requires a lot of ventilation, might affect neighbors, or not?
No, all we use is soap, water to apply the film. We don't spray any adhesives, or there's no chemicals. It's just soap and water is all we use. Okay,
that's kind of how I thought it worked, but I just wanted to be sure. And well, I guess that's it. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Dewey.
Thank you, Bob, for asking that question. That was one on my list as well. And the other thing about the landscape, it says the landscape plan for the building must be in place or replaced if missing. I would like that it to read not only missing, but if any plants are in poor condition, that they be, and if our forester deems them to be in poor condition, that they be replaced as well.
We would address that when we have first the reading for the bill. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you know Bob's second question? He forgot, Maggie. Maybe you can help me.
I was trying to, read it.
I know what it is.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Go ahead.
No, it's. I was just going to remark on the conversation earlier. An owner of residential real estate has to have the tenant has to get an occupancy permit, and if there's something wrong with the building, the tenant has to make sure the tenant doesn't have to make sure of anything, but the tenant doesn't get an occupancy permit until the landlord fixes the problem. So, I think that's what, we're looking at here. I agree. We don't put the remedy or the remedy to the problem on the applicant, but there is the lack of an occupancy permit unless the landlord takes action. to fix it. Isn't that right? Or
Mhm.
We can certainly fashion it that manner. You're correct.
That it, Bob?
yes.
Okay. Councilmember Zimmer?
Yes, question for the applicant. Andrew, how long does it normally take for you to complete one vehicle?
Usually it's a 2 to 3 hours because
Okay.
it's just me and my wife that I don't have any other employees, so I do all the labor myself.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's a lot of work. So do you think that having a maximum of 3 cars, is that doable for you?
Oh yeah, that's more than doable because I do appointment only, and they have the car here, and I'll bring it and put it in the garage, so the spots will pretty much always be open.
Okay, great. Well, that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Do we have anyone watching? Any residents who'd like to make any comments?
I'm not seeing any hands.
Thank you, Freddie. So with that, we will close this public hearing, and this item will be on our new business agenda on November 19th. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Our business for the public hearings are closed. And we'll adjourn this meeting, and then everyone will be back for our regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Thank you all.
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Councilmember Dewey, are you good now?
I am now. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Here.
Councilmember Ward,
Here.
Councilmember Wirtz,
Here.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Here.
Councilmember Sears,
Here.
Councilmember Dewey,
Here.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Here.
Thank you. City Attorney John Hessel, will you please make remarks regarding meeting remotely and the Sunshine Law?
I will, Mayor. Section 610.015 of the Missouri Sunshine Law provides that members of the City Council who are not physically present in the council chambers can participate and vote on all matters. When an emergency exists and the nature of the emergency must be stated in the minutes. So I'd again ask that the minutes reflect that we are still, unfortunately, in the state of emergency due to COVID-19, this pandemic. The governor of the state of Missouri, as well as the county executive, has still issued orders to avoid the spread of the coronavirus by having separation of at least 6 feet, limiting the number of people that can be in attendance at a particular location. Therefore, members of the City Council have elected to participate in this meeting for the public health, safety, and welfare of each other and the general public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hessel. We will go straight to public comments.
The public comments portion of the meeting is an opportunity for the City Council to listen to comments from citizens. It is not a question and answer session, and the City Council will not respond to comments or answer questions during this period. The mayor may refer any matter brought up to the City Council to the Chief Administrative Officer or City Clerk if action is needed. If anybody is wishing to make some public comments this evening, I ask that you please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Do we have anyone wishing to speak this evening?
I'm not seeing any hands.
All right. So then we will move on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move approval.
Is there a second? Do we have
Second.
any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. All right, motion passes. Move straight on to new business, Bill 10851.
Mayor and Council, this is an ordinance amending the Kirkwood Code of Ordinances, Chapter 18, Article 1, Section 18-7, bicycles, roller skates, roller blades, and skateboards.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move
So
approval.
moved.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor of first reading, please say aye.
Oh,
I'm
sorry. Nope, I'm sorry. I was mistaken.
Okay, all right. All in favor of first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. Bill passes first reading. Resolution 114, 2020.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution accepting the parking permit fees for the Downtown Special Business District in accordance with Section 14-334-2 of the Kirkwood Municipal Code of Ordinances for 2021.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wirtz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 115, 2020.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution accepting the proposal of Elliott Equipment Company pursuant to Sourcewell Cooperative Contract in the amount of $260,905.29 for the purchase of a 2021 side loader refuse truck for the Sanitation Department and authorizing and directing the Director of Procurement to issue a purchase order.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any questions or comments on this resolution? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 116, 2020.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution accepting the bid of Tramar Contracting Incorporated in the not to exceed amount of $58,975.20, which includes a contingency of $7,000 for 2020 acrylic waterborne pavement markings and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into a contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
We've got a motion. Who was the second? Sorry.
Well, Liz and Mark said at the same
Okay.
time, so I'll put Liz down as a motion and Mark as a second.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments on the resolution? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 117, 2020.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a 5-year agreement with Axon Enterprise Incorporated pursuant to Omnia Partners Public Sector Purchasing Cooperative Agreement for police body camera equipment, support, and storage in the amount of $46,710 per year for a total 5-year cost of $233,550 with future payments pending budgetary approval.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any questions or comments on the resolution? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Oh, nope, it's a resolution. We
Yeah, we gotta
need a roll call.
My apologies. Roll call, please. Roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 118, 2020.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution approving the preliminary development plan for a mixed-use development in the B2 zoning district located on the properties known as 416 through 432 North Kirkwood Road and 105 East Washington Avenue, subject to certain conditions.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Now it's time for questions and comments from the council, and I'll go first tonight. This has been a long process. This has been a high-profile matter for a while now, which obviously got extended due to the coronavirus situation. But it is a process. It goes through the administrative process, the planning and zoning process. And I know people have been anxious to hear what the council thinks. And the council has been anxious to weigh in and vote. And tonight is the night that the elected officials will make the decision on this matter. I grew up in Kirkwood. I've spent 23 and a half years as an elected official, 19 on the city council, and 4.5 as mayor now. I bring that up just because I hope I have some perspective on how Kirkwood has grown, at least since I was a kid back in the 1960s to where it is today. A lot has happened in that period. And just having some perspective on that, I think helps. And I'm obviously not the only one who has perspective, but I think it's very, very important. In one way, this was a very hard decision for me. In another way, it was a very easy decision. Hard from the standpoint that many, many people I know well, friends, neighbors, former neighbors, grade school classmates, longtime people I know have been vocally opposed to this proposal. It was easy though, because I think it's a good proposal. I support it and I'm going to vote yes for it. There is no right or wrong on this. We have, I don't even want to say disagreement. I think just different perspective on how things are, and that's okay. That's what brings good debate, good discussion, and good decision making. When I look at this proposal, I don't think it's too tall and I don't think it's too dense. I know a lot's been said about traffic, and this will increase traffic, but anything that happens there is going to increase traffic. You know, since the banks have gone from, you know, I guess people going to banks to online banking, traffic has decreased. You know, at one point, you know, not too long ago, we had 4 banks within a couple block area: Commerce, UMB, US Bank, before that United Postal Savings. We even had Roosevelt, and people were in and out of those banks all day long. So we had a lot more traffic. In addition, other permitted uses on this site are going to generate more traffic than this one will. Does that mean we're not concerned with traffic? Absolutely not. We have to make sure that areas are safe. But I think with the traffic engineers looking at it, I'm confident that this is okay. We have to remember, these are professional licensed traffic engineers who look at data. It's not just someone saying, oh, I think it's going to be okay. You know, they meet with the city before they do their study, and the city outlines the scope of what the traffic study needs to look like. So I'm very confident when the professional engineers come in and say what they say on traffic. You know, I'll mention one thing about heights. You know, this is not the first time we've had a 60-foot building in downtown Kirkwood. Obviously, we have, you know, Station Plaza, which is there. We have Bethesda down the street. And we actually have, you know, Kirkwood House, which is a 6-story building, 65 feet high on South Taylor, that is totally, on 3 sides, abuts single-family residential. The point is, this is not a precedent-setting type building. It's not something that, in my opinion, is going to change the fabric of Kirkwood. You know, we've had bold things happen in Kirkwood before. I think way back in the mid-70s, when the council back then approved the Target development going in. To this day, I still believe that's what saved downtown Kirkwood. You know, that was not a popular thing back then, to bring in a discount store, but it worked. It allowed Target to come in, and Casey Sports, where I worked, moved from North Kirkwood Road to that development, and it was a huge success. So I would call those bold measures taken. I would just call this something that I think is good. You know, Kirkwood is the best community in the area. I know other cities might disagree with that, but I think we arguably are the best. But we are in competition with other cities. We're in competition with Webster. We're in competition with Soulard area, Richmond Heights, the Central West End, Maplewood, St. Charles. And we have to stay focused on the long term for Kirkwood. And I think this will help do that. I think it shows, if we approve this, it shows that we want a vibrant, dynamic, and thriving downtown. And I think we do it without sacrificing any neighborhood surrounding this. And the more our downtown is successful, the more we are successful as a whole in the city of Kirkwood. And that's why I am supporting this project. We'll go down the order. Councilmember Ward.
Thank you, Mayor, and certainly appreciate those comments. I would like to thank the residents who shared their opinions on this project, for and against. It's always important for us to have as much direct, immediate comments from residents as possible to help us in our decision making. This is a tough decision for us, but when I look at the history of Kirkwood, it has from its inception been a city founded on managing change. We sit where we are with the great fire and police and all of and water and electric, all of the assets that help to make this city run well. But the most important asset we have are our residents. And I want all the residents to understand that tonight we're at a place in our history where we need to make some big decisions for change that will secure our financial future. I'd invite all of those residents that are listening to take a look at the St. Louis County Charter and understand how taxation works today versus what it worked 25 years ago. It's much different. It's more of a shared proposition. The monies that we used to take 100% of and benefit our coffers now get spread throughout St. Louis County. That's not going to change. We're going to be relying on a much different retail environment. So those things that we can do that will help bolster the losses that we're going to receive going forward are important. There are going to be, in all likelihood, some council members who are going to oppose this particular project, but this is a finance project. I mean, proposal. We're looking at how do we finance this city going forward. We had quite a bit of uproar just over the sanitation increases. Well, there'll be more of those. We have, because of some past mistakes by councils, we have some shortfalls. We've got a water system we're plugging leaks at over $250,000 a year. Just plugging the leaks. That's not replacing the lines. That's just plugging leaks. We have streets. Of course, everybody's aware of where we are with streets, and we've really understated the need that we have in a lot of our capital needs. So although we're balanced and looking good here, the true picture is much deeper than what we see every day. I want to have, at the end of my service, the ability to say that I made decisions that kept us in a good financial footing for a long period of time without relying 100% on the taxpayers of the city of Kirkwood. This particular change is a necessary one. And I think in the end, it won't be as onerous as people feel right now emotionally that it is. I can recall some of the changes that were prominent in my lifetime when we lost Pittman Elementary to put Commerce Bank up, which had been the old Kirkwood Bank. And the domino there was we ended up with the Adams Place facility, which is a really nice looking building, and it serves the community well and its residents. We got the new Commerce Bank across the street, and frankly, as a grown-up, when I look back at Pittman Elementary, it was bordered at the time by a highway, Kirkwood Road, running north and south was the highway. There was no Highway 270. So you had heavy trucks there. So you had kids, 300-400 of us on an all asphalt playground because there wasn't a patch of grass anywhere. But people think, well, how can we get rid of that school? When I look back, I think, how could my parents have sent me to school there? So, our perspective changed over time. And I think our perspective of what we're going to do potentially with this particular site will change over time too.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Wertz.
Yeah, I want to echo what Councilmember Ward said, just a thank you to all of the residents that have reached out over the past few weeks. I think the fact that we have so many caring residents for and against this project just is a demonstration of how awesome our community is and how many people do care about our city. A common theme in these calls and emails we've gotten for and against this project is that Kirkwood is a small town with a special character. And while some might debate if that special character comes from the buildings we put in place or the people who live here, it's I think, a mix of both. And while I can't vote on a building's aesthetic or appearance or what color it is, I can vote on what makes our city stronger and more resilient. We've all witnessed the hardships and the decline of many other cities in our region that are our size and kind of what they've had to do over the past 20 years just to survive. And even with our faults, Kirkwood in that time has really grown as a great community. There are a few ways we need to improve on though, and they were, I think, laid out in great detail in both the Downtown Master Plan and the Downtown Economic Study. Both of these studies pointed to the importance of creating more density downtown to help promote accessibility, walkability, and economic strength. Both studies specifically pointed to this parcel of land where UMB Bank now sits as an opportunity for a mixed-use building to help promote residential living and offer more economic vibrancy in a part of town that honestly gets overlooked by both residents and visitors. The land in question was developed when parking lots were more important than green space, and banks were much more heavily visited in person as they are today, as the mayor pointed out. I live down the street from the parcel, and I hardly see any vehicle traffic in the area or in that specific spot. And I never see any pedestrians hanging out or walking by. And I know if my running route takes me downtown, I make it a point to turn off on Adams so I don't have to go north on Kirkwood Road, because at that point you're surrounded by asphalt. There's no buffer between you and the cars on Kirkwood Road. And it's just very unsafe, very unappealing. So I think we can all agree that when we're looking at that parcel of land full of asphalt and cars, that's not what we think of when we think of Kirkwood's character. When many of the residents voiced their concerns about the increase in traffic if this land was developed, it's not a surprise. And they're absolutely right that traffic will increase. Traffic is a virtual zero there as it sits now. The studies have shown that if anyone were to develop this for purely commercial use, traffic would be double than what the proposal at hand would be. So if traffic increases are only concern for this development, the alternative is the status quo, keeping traffic at bare minimum, or a commercial building or fast food restaurant that brings more traffic and less community engagement than the proposal at hand. This proposal's trade-off is creating more green space, more homes, and safer pedestrian route. The other common thread on the opposition to this proposal is density. People don't want our zoning codes broken to allow more residents, and I get that. We're a city made up of mostly single-family homes and have only developed a handful of multi-family homes since I was in grade school. We as a community aren't used to new development that would allow for this many new homes in this space. So there's no real blueprint to make us feel comfortable that breaking density is going to somehow ruin our city. For too many decades, though, density was used as an excuse by many cities to keep people out, to segregate, and to create division. These days, the most successful small towns and cities have realized that density actually creates diversity in younger professionals, allows adults to age in place, and it creates affordable housing, which I crunched the numbers, and in Kirkwood, it would be about $1,600 a month in rent, which is by no means cheap, but based on the metrics, is considered affordable here. The trade-off for allowing this development to break our code is allowing 60 more people to call Kirkwood home, help maintain our character by maintaining our fiscally independent city services and autonomy, and by attracting people who may not have been able to call Kirkwood home before, and who will become important assets to our community as those who currently live here. And those are my very formulaic comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wertz. Councilmember Gibbons.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I'm going to take a different path than the last three people speaking. I am concerned about the density, and the piece of the density is I feel like our citizens, and especially the residents that live around this particular project, to be able to know what it is that's expected in our codes, and to be over our code by 63%, I think is not allowing people to know that what is expected. One of the things that I want to offer is an amendment in the future, in a little bit here, dealing with that density. I know it's changing. There was a committee that studied that for well over a year, all the building codes, and one of the things was the density, and it's going to probably go down. There didn't seem to be any opposition to that. I know Wallace sat on that committee for that entire time. So to me, it feels like we should be using that density code for this project, which would be 1,000 square feet for the lot size. To me, the height is an issue. When we had one of the city planners in here, she said that from residents, you should only go up 2 floors. The Washington Square condos right next door is a 2-story building. So having a 5-story building next to them doesn't go along with what she had to say. And the height of the retail space is only going to be 12 feet. There's many people that feel that the loft, the Station Plaza loft part of the building has not been successful with the retail. I don't think it's ever been full, and that it's the 12 feet that caused that. I've gone down and seen the other buildings, 2 buildings that this group has built, the Grand Flats and Metro Flats. Grand Flats is similar to what we're looking at on this project. Very flat, no character, looks like something that just doesn't belong in Kirkwood. Doesn't look like Kirkwood. It doesn't look like it belongs here. It looks more like an European or Russian building. Went to the Metro Flats and looked at that. All the retail space there is completely empty. It has a better look to it. During this pandemic, there's an issue with outdoor space and being able to be outside and even in your own home. This project, only half the apartments are going to be having any kind of balcony, any kind of outside space. So for those reasons, I am opposing this project.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Sears.
Yes, thank you. And really, what you said, Mayor and Councilmember Ward and Councilmember Wirtz, was very informative, I think, and took in a lot of history, where we've been in perspective. I was touched by that, Mayor Griffin, thinking about how I too have been around and seen things change and seen things stay the same for, also, and to kind of have a sense of what it is to live in Kirkwood and be a Kirkwoodian and the kinds of buildings we have around. I was struck also by Kara's comment that we really are we're who we are because of the people who live here, not the businesses, not the homes. It's the people who live here that are who we are, and that's where our focus should be. I've said it before, on any of our decision making that we make, and that's where my focus is, on the people. What's good for the people of Kirkwood? My view of this project when it first came out was that it was way too tall, and that it had more units than I was comfortable with. And as time went on, the height of the building came down to one that's within our code. So there's not an objection that I could have with that. And so then the only question in my view is, what's this about the density? So almost everyone, when they talk about density, talks about there must be an increase in traffic. But as I think people have said beforehand, first, there will be an increase of traffic over the current use, but far from the increase of several uses that are allowed at that location. So I think the study said at the maximum PM hour, there might be 105 additional cars. I know at least for Kirkwood Road, that's very insignificant. With when looking more at density, the sanitary problems, sanitation problems can come into play. There's none of that suggested by this project. And people. Another one would be: are you too crowded for the neighborhood? And I think the opposite is true. We still have loads of room, not just in Kirkwood. If you think back to the 70s, what our population was then, it was more than it is now. So we certainly can handle the population. And then having it on the perimeter of downtown is extremely important. We need residents on those fringes of downtown. People have been expressed skepticism about whether this goes, I guess, back to the density. The units are too small. Who would ever want to live in that kind of unit? And it's like, one thing, that's not up to me. Another thing, that the investors know their market, or they wouldn't be sinking their millions into it. So I'm confident in their business practices of anybody. It does not behoove them if they build one apartment that there won't be a tenant for. And besides, I just kind of anecdotally know that younger people are looking more for these types of environments than we did. We wanted more spacious apartments, multiple bedrooms, couple of bathrooms, and a lot of space in the building, and that's just not a priority for people any longer. And with the rents and the size of the properties and the quality of that property, that I'm looking forward to having new neighbors who I predict will be young, will be professional, and will ultimately begin their families in Kirkwood, hopefully grow roots, and choose to stay here when they move out of those apartments. I want to be very clear. I am not at all, and I'm confident that nobody on this panel, on the council, is at all motivated by any profits to developers. I never even think of it, boy, that developer is going to make a lot of money, I should be for this project. It's ridiculous. I'm watching out for what's good for Kirkwood. And as Wallace pointed out, this is an important, our revenue base for downtown, a successful downtown, is an important revenue stream for the city of Kirkwood. That's not so that we can then build up some big bank account and do, strange and expensive projects. It's for keeping our streets and our safety, and without having to raise everyone's real estate taxes, which is ultimately what we would have to do if our business community starts to decline. So as I said, I think there's a critical need to increase foot traffic and visits to our downtown. It's especially important because there's two things that have happened in the last decade and in recent years. One I would point to is the online market for goods. That's made it much more critical that we do whatever we can to support the brick and mortar businesses downtown, bringing in more people who will visit those restaurants and those stores will be helpful in that. And we should be doing it too. We who are going, who live here and maybe we aren't on the borders of downtown, pay attention to our local businesses and shop there. It's really critically important. And the other thing is COVID restrictions have necessitated changes in their business models in a post-COVID environment. We don't know how far that would go, but again, they'll need a lot of support from a lot of customers to deal with all of that. So I think that this project really does achieve those goals for the benefit of the people of Kirkwood.
Thank you. Councilmember Dewey.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to all of the residents that wrote emails and called expressing their views. That is always welcome, and thank you. First, I need to say I am in favor of development within the city of Kirkwood that respects the neighborhoods, the citizens, the safety, and the ambiance of our city. And by ambiance, I mean the mood, the character, the quality, the tone, and the atmosphere of Kirkwood. Within these parameters, people, cities, most everything must continue to evolve and grow with mindfulness or risk becoming stagnant and ineffectual. With that said, I seek an amendment to the resolution by adding a new condition, number 30. The applicant is to review and incorporate into the final development plan the best practices from Vision Zero, the complete streets transportation planning concepts at the direction.
Councilmember Dewey, may I interrupt for a second? Well, we'll do the amendments after all the council has had a chance to speak. I'll come back for amendments. So.
Okay. I apologize, and
Oh,
I'll wait till then.
No, that's fine. No, I didn't want you to get too far in, so.
I'll wait till then.
Okay. Do you have other comments, or is that it for now? Okay, all right, thank you. Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes. This is, and probably you all agree, this has probably been one of the hardest decisions that we've had to make. We have had a lot of feedback from residents on their opinion of this proposal, this project. I think there are a lot of good things about this project. I think the DPZ study has made it very clear that we need to increase density in our downtown to drive foot traffic and to drive sales for our businesses that exist down there and to grow our downtown, to make it more walkable and livable and to increase the population that lives down there. And I think that's very important. And I think this project is really in line with the vision of DPZ and what they want to do. The building does meet height requirements for the city. I think it's a quality project. I think that in many ways it would succeed in what DPZ said we should be doing. I am concerned about the density and about how it relates to the code. Even if we do change the code, it will still be over that. So that is a concern. I think that in this case, I would like to see a few changes to this development, mainly for the fact that we have a lot of people that have voiced opposition to it. But more importantly, I would like to see more creativity. The one thing, we've had other developments in Kirkwood that have had upper floor setbacks. and have had, changes that that make it work and that make it a good fit for the city of Kirkwood. So in my opinion, I would like to see something different go here, but similar. I think that, this does make a good spot for future residents of Kirkwood to live here. But I think the density, I'm concerned. Whatever we do here will increase traffic. And I hope the citizens realize that anything that goes here is going to increase traffic. But I have some concerns about how this one impacts the traffic. I think we've made a lot of good comments. I've looked at the budget for the city of Kirkwood now for 8 years. Our expenses have gone up every single year. We have to do something in the future to encourage development, increase density, and drive sales and revenues for the city of Kirkwood. Or we will have to take other measures because the expenses go up every single year. I've seen it myself. However, I think for this proposal, I still have some concerns about it. I think there's a lot of positives to it that will help us achieve those goals that DPZ pointed out and that fit with our downtown master plan. But when it comes down to it, I'd like to see some changes to it. And
thank you.
Comments, thank
so
you.
all councils have the opportunity to make comments. I know at least 2 council members have amendments they would like to propose. So I know Councilmember Gibbons, you would like to propose some amendments. So now is the time to bring those to the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I mentioned it when I was speaking that I would like to propose an amendment that would change the density of this project from 152 units to 112 units. 112 units would be in keeping with the new code that the committee spent, like I said, well over a year investing in new building codes. So that's the amendment that I would like to present.
All right. So there's been is there a second to that proposed amendment?
A second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second for an amendment lowering the number of units from 152 to 112. My thoughts on that are that's to amend the site plan like that. That's part of tearing the guts out of the proposal, so to speak. If we were to amend a site plan, like we've done, changing a fence, raising the height, lowering the height, changing, from a wood or cementatious to chain link, something like that. That's one thing. But I think the best, my opinion, is on a site plan where something that is part of the core of the project. We probably should not, I don't think we should amend that. And I'll use the term loosely on the fly. So I for one will not support that amendment. We have other comments from council. Councilmember Ward, anything?
I would agree with you, Mayor, on that. I think the project as it stands is, with few exceptions, within our existing code, and I wouldn't support any amendments at that level.
Councilmember Wirtz, anything?
No, nothing.
All right. Councilmember Gibbons, that's your amendment. Councilmember Sears?
I feel the same way as you and Wallace do. I think that it's when you offer an amendment that changes it so dramatically, that's essentially a denial of the proposal. So I will deny the amendment, and because if I had agreed with it, I would have denied the proposal. If you get my drift there.
Understood. All right. Councilmember Dewey, anything?
Yes, I would support this also with a look to revisiting and finding something maybe not quite that big of a cut, but bringing the density down.
Councilmember Zimmer?
Yeah, I think I would like to look at bringing down the density, but I think, it might be difficult to keep this proposal standing with the amendment, although I agree with its principle.
All right. Do we have any other questions or comments on the amendment? All right, seeing none. Laurie, just because I think we're going to have yays and nays on this, let's do a roll call on the amendments tonight.
Okay. Okay, are you ready?
Yes, please.
Okay, Mayor Griffin?
No.
Councilmember Ward?
No.
Councilmember Wirtz?
No.
Councilmember Gibbons?
Yes.
Councilmember Sears?
No.
Councilmember Dewey?
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer?
Yes.
All right, that should be 4 in favor, 3 opposed. I mean, excuse me, 4
opposed, 3 in favor.
The amendment does not pass. Councilmember Gibbons, do you have other amendments?
No, that's it.
Okay. Councilmember Dewey, I know you have some amendments as well.
Yes, I will repeat just for a moment. I seek an amendment to the resolution by adding a new condition to adding a new condition number 30. The applicant is to review and incorporate into the final development plan the best practices from the Vision Zero and the Complete Streets transportation planning concepts at the direction of the city's public service department.
Great. Is there a second to that amendment?
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. I support that amendment. I think it's something that is something we should do, and in concert with the public services department. I think that's a wise thing to do. So I will support this amendment. Anyone else? Councilmember Ward?
Yeah, I agree with that amendment. Those are common sense safety practices for pedestrians, bicyclists, and automobiles. I'd see no reason to oppose that.
Do we have any other council comments or questions?
I have a question, I suppose.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
If this were to pass, which I like it, but if it were to pass, what effect would it have on the applicant and their plan? I mean, how extensive would the requirements be, or I don't know how far out of scope this is getting.
Well, I think that's why part of the amendment is to, at the direction, I don't have the exact wording of the public services department. So it will be something that's kept in line. And remember, ultimately, if this passes preliminary site plan, it all comes back to us anyway. So I think it's just having a consultation, making sure they're aware of, the Vision Zero and Complete Streets provisions as they plan out the traffic around the area.
Okay, thank you for that.
Do we have anyone? Councilmember Wirtz, I'm sorry, I missed you before.
No, you're good. I think Maggie or Councilwoman Dewey is bringing up a really good point to kind of, I guess, tie in with, they have the curb extension and then the hawk that they are putting in with this. Let's make sure they're doing it right and doing it to our high standards, because that's part of the appeal for some of this, and let's get it right. So I commend her for adding this amendment.
Thank you. Councilmember Zimmer, anything? Councilmember Gibbons?
No, I support anything with Vision Zero, and I think this is great. Yep.
All right. Seeing no further comments, let's have a roll call on that amendment, please.
Okay. Mayor Griffin?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Yes.
That's a unanimous on the,
And
yes, Laurie.
Mayor, if I may ask Councilmember Dewey, will you please email me your amendment so I can have the correct verbiage for amending the resolution and also adding it to the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have anything else, Councilmember Dewey?
I do. I have a second amendment. Also, I seek an amendment to condition number 14 by adding the following. The applicant shall consult with the owners of the Washington Avenue condominiums with respect to the final selection of the height, color, and material of the fence on the eastern property line.
Is there a second to that amendment? That motion?
Second.
All right. I concur with that. I think we have successfully in several areas had the property owners or developers talk to neighbors and let them figure out, what works best in terms of fencing or whatever it is. Obviously, knowing that the final site plan, comes back to us. But again, I think that's a good practice, and I will support that amendment. Do we have anyone else wishing to speak on the amendment? Just raise your hand.
Well,
Councilmember Ward?
Mayor, if I could, I would seek to maybe improve that a little bit by just making the statement of a barrier, whether it's fence, plantings, whatever.
John or Jonathan, is that something we need to do, or does that fence preclude from having anything else?
Well, from a practical standpoint, with the site plan proposed, there is really minimal area there. It's really just enough room for a fence, honestly. As we know with other conditions, their plantings would be, would need to go into landscape islands and that. I think the specific amendment that was made was specific to condition number 14, which is in conjunction with a fence. So if it were to, if the desire were to open it up to different barriers, I guess my point is landscaping I don't see as a feasible option at this location with the limited planting area.
John, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I was going to agree with Jonathan because the condition 14 is specific to a fence, but I would add that this is preliminary plan. We're going to a final plan. So Wallace, to your point, if there is a consensus among staff, the developers, and the Washington Condominium Association, there's some other kind of barrier well beyond my knowledge, staff can consider that in preliminary and final. So what I guess I'm trying to say is that it is certainly possible that something other than a fence in the form of a barrier could. I think Jonathan's pointing out it's highly unlikely, but it could. I'm being not on the table.
And my thought on that is if the developer and the neighboring residents come up with something and they're both okay with it, chances are we're going to be okay with it too. So, all right, we have anything else on the amendment? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz?
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons?
Yes.
Councilmember Sears?
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey?
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer?
Yes.
The amendment passes. So we now have an amended. I'm sorry? Oh, I think she knows what you're going to ask.
Maggie knew
I
okay.
had her hand up. Sorry, I was interrupting you, Mayor.
Nope. Thank you.
No, that's fine. All right, so we now have an amended resolution 118, 2020. Are there any final council questions or comments on it? All right, seeing none.
Mayor?
Roll call. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Dewey. I'm sorry.
Oh, on that, I'm sorry, no. I do have a further comment, if I may, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Further, I ask the applicant to consult with the city's forester concerning the selection of the species of trees on the project and be guided by his recommendations in the preparation of the final development plan. I also urge the applicant to work with the city's electric department to do something about the unsightly electric lines along the eastern property, including exploring how these lines could be buried, which may allow for additional plantings in the area. The area is unsightful, even with a nice new fence and not having any plantings, it is unsightful. We can do better.
And I apologize. Do you have more, Councilmember Dewey?
That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
I apologize. Okay. All right. So back to that, we've got amended resolution 118, 2020. Roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes.
Councilmember Wertz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
No.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer.
No.
All right. That looks like it passed 5-2. All right. Thank you. That brings us to the end of our new business agenda. We have no consent agenda items. Do we have any city council reports? All right. Seeing none, Chief Administrative Officer report.
I have nothing at this time, Mayor.
All right. City Attorney report.
I know the council is always happy when I can say I have nothing to report.
Yes, that's usually true.
Usually not when it takes you so long to say it, but.
All right. I know the city clerk has a report.
Yes, Your Honor, I have a couple of reports. My first report is the report of the October 21st, 2020 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The following action was taken. After a presentation for a request for a site plan review for a multifamily building at 144 West Adams Avenue, Commissioners Klippel and Washington were appointed to a subcommittee. The subcommittee met via Zoom on October 28th at 8:30 a.m. The second report I have is the November 4th report of the November 4th, 2020 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The following action was taken. The commission recommended approval of a request by Villa Di Maria Montessori School for a site plan review at 1280 Simmons Avenue. A public hearing will be scheduled. After a presentation for a special use permit amendment by Pepe's Apartment 2 at 800 South Geyer Road, the commission recommended approval. A public hearing will be scheduled. And the Planning and Development Services Director, Jonathan Raish, presented the third quarter update of the Envision Kirkwood 2035 comprehensive plan. And a report on the upcoming public hearings. Those two items I just mentioned from this Planning and Zoning Commission report will be scheduled for public hearings. We will report on that at a later date.
All right. Thank you,
Tim.
Laura. Yes.
If I could, it slipped my mind, but it's important.
Sure.
We've covered a lot over the last few weeks, and we've gotten a lot of email about some buildings and grounds. But as many said this evening, the people that live in this community that make it a special community. And I wanted to point out, and I'm not going to use this young lady's name because I spoke with her mom, and she said she would certainly appreciate if we could make an effort on her daughter's behalf. But it's a young 10-year-old who several weeks ago, there were several news stories that were run on her, who's raised by sewing face masks, $20,000, which she then turned right around and spent in downtown Kirkwood businesses supporting them. This is a time when we don't get much positive news about young people, and for that matter, old people in our community. And I think we should celebrate young people who make this kind of effort for their community, whose selfish behavior and performances beyond the call. And I would like for this body to consider naming a day after this young woman I will send you the videos on that story, but I think I just think she's a very special young lady, and I think and although she's not the only special young lady we have in our community, I think she's a sterling example to young and old, and we should celebrate that.
That's great, Councilman Ward. If you would share that video with us all, I think that can be arranged. So,
okay,
thank you very much. All right. Well, with that, next meeting of the City Council is 2 weeks from tonight, 7 p.m. on November 19th. It will be via Zoom. This meeting is adjourned.